Writing is about more than just writing. It's also about how you interact with the rest of the world and the other writers you encounter within it. As long as you do some amount of writing with some degree of regularity, then in my view, you can consider yourself a writer. As a writer, you will find yourself as part of the community of writers. And among this group of people who are considered to be part of the community of writers, there exist a few who are kind of, how do I say this diplomatically, assholes. And it's these types of writers we're going to talk about today. These are the worst kinds of writers you'll encounter out in the world. Fitting into one of these categories has nothing to do with what you write, but rather with how you approach and interact with other writers, usually in a way that is detrimental to other practitioners of the craft. This video is a bit more tongue-in-cheek than my usual stuff is, and all of the criticism leveled here is done with all love and respect to anyone watching. I myself have fit into many of these categories at different times, so I am not immune to these sorts of things. Just keep that in mind as we go through this. Alright, let's begin with the genre-phobic writer. Most writers, myself included, have preferences when it comes to the genres that we write in and that we read in. Different pen strokes for different writerly folks, as they say. And I think for most writers, this preference is just that, a preference. It does not come with any sort of hostility. I'm probably not going to be super interested in your historical age gap vampire reverse harem story because I'm not a devotee of that genre, and that's okay. Some writers, however, turn their genre preference into a means of elevating themselves and denigrating other people. You both read and write this pedestrian drivel of, I don't know, cozy mysteries. It could be literally anything. These writers denigrate and demean those who write outside of whatever genre they consider to be inferior. Whatever genre you enjoy writing in, then enjoy writing in that genre, and let other people do the same. Next up, the intellectual writer. For these folks, it's very important to understand that they, A, possess a really big brain, and B, have applied said large brain to the craft of writing. They will usually disparage any remotely popular novel as garbage, and instead recommend you read some obscure author you've never heard of, who they claim without any concrete evidence is better than whatever work that they're disparaging. They will bemoan how Western story structures are far too restrictive and don't offer the level of nuance that they need in order to craft their vision, and that in order to bring this to life, they must move beyond the confines of, I don't even know what. I got lost halfway through what they were saying. The intellectual writer may even post weekly videos spewing meaningless, theoretical insights into writing on a YouTube channel. Ugh. These writers give the rest of us a bad name. They gatekeep the writing community by making people believe that in order to have something meaningful to say in a piece of writing, you also have to qualify for Mensa membership. Worst of all, I think the intellectual writers take the enjoyment out of the process. They move writing from a pursuit to create something meaningful for the writer creating it and morph it into some kind of brain measuring contest that's meant to impress other people at brunch or whatever. Next up, the I'm just here for the money writer. I'm going to preface this by saying that I have zero problem with someone making money through writing in any shape or form that isn't something like fraud, I suppose. In fact, I highly, highly encourage it. There's a stigma around writers monetizing their work, and this is ultimately harmful to the craft. To produce good writing, you need time and energy in order to produce it, and making money from writing will give you both time and energy to devote to your writing, which is necessary to create good writing in the first place. You do not have a thriving writing community unless you have people who are able to dedicate a large part of their lives to the pursuit of writing, which means they need to support themselves in some way. An author who is passionate about their work deserves every dollar they get from it. All of that being said, I think there are a sizable group of people out there who view writing, especially the self-publishing audiobook space, as this sort of get-rich-quick scheme that will generate passive income. I don't think the people who do this are necessarily harming the craft, because I think they're AI-generated, auto-marketed audiobook thing will just disappear into the void of Amazon and people will forget about it within 3 or 4 months. It's more so that they themselves are misguided and they don't recognize that there are so many other easier ways to make money than self-publishing, that if all you want to do is make money, you're playing things on hard mode. If you're passionate about writing and you care about what you're producing and you're willing to put a ton of effort into producing something of decent quality, then it's worth it to put that extra effort in. And if the paycheck is a little lower, then that's fine because you're expressing your passion and you're doing something that you enjoy. If you lack that passion, however, then you're just banging your head against the wall for no reason. You're working harder than you need to make less money. I think a lot of these people who move in this direction of the passive income, audiobook, AI, whatever nonsense stuff, they'd be just as happy or more happy doing something that wasn't writing related. And they would probably end up making more money because, as I said, writing and publishing are not the easiest way to make money. It's like running is a way to get from point A to point B, but it's a hard way to get there that's slower than a lot of the alternative ways. If you don't care about exercise, or you have no interest in writing, or you don't care about the benefits that running can give you, then just take a car to get from point A to point B. It's easier and you aren't sacrificing something that you care about anyway. If you're passionate about writing and you want to make money from writing, that's great. Go ahead and do that. If you aren't passionate about writing and you just want to make money, your efforts are probably better spent somewhere else. Next up, the I'm immune to criticism or other input from other people writer. These writers' approach to critique is to place their hands over their ears and repeat la 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 loud enough to drown out whoever is reading their work. If you point out an area where they can improve, you haven't pointed out an issue in their work, you've discovered a problem with you. It's you not realizing their greatness. It's you not getting their story. It's you not having the brains to appreciate the masterful job that they've done at writing. These types of writers participate in writing groups, they do swaps for critique, they might even hire an editor. But instead of using those processes as a way to improve themselves and the work, they use them as a means of getting validation for the amazing stuff that's spewing out the business end of their keyboard. Any negativity, any point of possible improvement is resoundingly rejected with an impenetrable mixture of ego, projection, and other psychology stuff that I'm not qualified to actually discuss or even mention. This writer is not interested in getting better, they're just interested in hearing about how good they already are. I think every writer does this to an extent. It's really hard to accept that there are flaws in your writing, and critique can be a brutal thing to go through at times. You put a lot of work into your writing, and it feels good to get validation from it. But a lot of improvement is about recognizing where you need to improve. Part of this process is accepting that you do need to improve, that your skills aren't necessarily where you perhaps think they are. Whenever you go into a situation where you're having other people assess your writing, whether it's a writing group or a swap or anything like that, you need to accept the fact that the reason that those people are there are to tell you what you're doing right, but also to tell you what you're doing wrong. And that the true purpose of these processes is to make you a better writer. But if you're too busy trying to convince yourself that you're already as good as you could be, that you're already at the summit of literary greatness, then you're not going to listen when people tell you that there's a much higher mountain that you need to climb. I think of all the different types of writers on this list, this is the one that everybody does to some extent. And part of the process, I think, of improving your skills are tearing down all of these defense mechanisms that you put up when you receive criticism. It takes a lot of self-awareness to fully accept and fully recognize criticism when it's delivered to you, and to fully accept the flaws that it's acknowledging. This is something that I myself and a lot of you watching this could probably stand to work on. Speaking of things I'm gonna stop working on, I'm going to stop working on this video because we're at the end of it. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I didn't really give any advice, so I don't know how useful this is. But anyway, I'd love to hear what you think of this in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.